Hey there. Well, I figured I kind of feel like talking about my stories, about Talonkai and what I'm thinking about for the future, what I want to write now that the book Song of Mornius is in its last chapter that I'm currently dinking around with. I'm thinking about what comes next as far as a sequel. I would like to make a story, and I think I've said this before, I'd like to develop Cray as a character and have more of Cray in the next story. Basically, he would become one of the main characters in the next story, and unlike my original idea for a sequel, which I had 10, 12 years ago when I was writing this book before I went through my depression. I had the sequel idea back then it was called Touch of the Sword. That was a tentative title that I had because I needed a title. I didn't really like that title, but it had to have some kind of title. So that's what it was called, Touch of the Sword. And it involved some characters from the current book going back in time, and the rebellion of the giants, the slavery in the mines and the rebellion, and basically how the giants free themselves from slavery. That was the original idea, and the more I thought about it, the more I've decided that I don't think I like the idea of writing about time travel. I think it's a very complex and difficult subject to write about in the first place. You know, any contact with... I have a cat fight on the verge of starting behind me, and it's very distracting. It's like every time I say a word, I hear back here. Like any moment, there's going to be a lot of howling and screaming coming from this direction because they're right behind me. And Sierra, when she decides to let go a scream, it's very loud and very... Anyway, hopefully it won't happen. But yeah, I just think it's probably better to not really delve too much into time. And now I have the mouse noises going on here. So I like the idea instead of going forward and not backward with the story. I don't want to say too much because I haven't put up the last chapter yet, but there's a relationship that will continue to develop between Abelard and Cameron Florin, Tarek's brother, who is now a giant. And there is Cray and his desire to become a magician, like Pony, and his adventures growing up on the island of giants, Hathrahone. And what I haven't really gotten too much into in the current book that I would want to get into more in the sequel is that humans have been on Talonkai for several generations now. And the humans that are on Talonkai now have more magical capacity, or capability, I should say, than their parents or their grandparents did. And with every generation, with every new generation of human, they are gradually going to become more and more magical creatures. They're not humans when they came to Talonkai. You know, humans on Earth have a kind of magic, some of them, some of us, some people, you know, that we're aware of. Some people have a sense of what's coming, you know, they have intuition, there's people who... I do believe that there are some people who have some natural psychic abilities. I think there's a lot of charlatans and fakers, but I do think that there are some people that have some ability to sense what's coming, foretell the future a little. You know, I think that there are some humans that have some natural magic to them here on Earth. So on Talonkai, when humans first came to Talonkai, there would have been people like that still. But Talonkai is a naturally magical world. So those humans on Talonkai are eating food from Talonkai. Now my computer is booting up for some bizarre reason. It's doing something. So yeah, humans are eating food from Talonkai and breathing air from Talonkai and drinking water from Talonkai. And it just makes sense that with every generation of human, the next generation is going to be more magical, and so on and so on and so on. And so early in the story, the next story, I think I would like Pony to explain to Cray that he is a magical creature. He's not an elf. He certainly isn't like Pony, you know. But the reason that Galen was able to do what he did with Mornius is because Galen is, to a very small degree, magical. And Cray, being the next generation, would be more magical than Galen. And when Cray gets older and has children, his children will be more magical than he is. So Cray will have some magic, and humans over time will become magical like the elves are magical. But it will take a long time for humans to get to that point. And so that's something I'd like to get across early on in the next book. But the story itself is going to be involving Cray. It's going to be involving Pony and Avalar's father Grevelin and leader Trentor and Avalar and Caramon Florin. It's going to involve the North continent, the struggle with the Connell elves to protect the giants, and the Sundercon. My phone is ringing. Sorry, that was a junk phone call. Don't you love it when you pick up the phone and there's this long pause and then you get a recording? Oh, it just pisses me off. So yes, the sequel will involve the very icy land in the north and the ice catacombs. I just love that word, catacombs. Where the Sundercon, basically the home of the Sundercon, which is just ice homes. These things are touched upon. These creatures are touched upon in the current book. Avalar wears or carries with her a Sundercon cloak. It's just a big furry cloak that she wears. Mostly she hauls it around because the land of Thalos is much warmer than Hothra Isle, where the giants live, and so she's not wearing it very often. There's one point where she's wrapped Cray up in the cloak when he's injured, but you don't really see or hear much of the cloak in the story because she's in a warmer climate. But that is in the story, and there's a little bit about the Sundercon, the giant warriors that defend both the elves and the humans in the north from the Sundercon. So you get some idea from the first book that these are bad guys that attack villages. Okay, so that is going to be an element in the next book. I would say more so, considerably more so than in the first book. You're going to probably see, or you're not going to see because you don't actually see, but I'm going to write about there will be conflicts with the Sundercon. And the other thing I'd like to incorporate into the next book is the Shurkan Raiders. And there will be some encounters with the Shurkan Raiders. Kurganrok's ship, the Dawn Cutter, will have a major role in the next book, as will Kurganrok. And the Shurkan Raiders are mostly extinct on Talonkai, but there are still some of them. They still do exist, and there will be they're basically now mostly pirates. There will be some encounters with pirating Shurkan Raiders in the next book. And I haven't figured out the character yet, but I'm thinking there will be at least one very fierce raider captain of one of those pirate ships that will be incredibly cool. I want him to be fierce and scary and cool. And I'd like to get a little bit into the Shurkan Raiders and their civilization. And I have the Prowlers in the current book. You don't really get I don't really get a lot into the prowlers, but the Shirkan Raiders are their larger kin. So they're cat-like people. They have thick lion manes. They look more like they're more like lions than where the prowlers are more like panthers. The Shirkan Raiders are more like lions. And they're bigger, stronger, considerably meaner. So these are just ideas I have for the next book. I actually have no idea what the story will be. I haven't plotted it out. I haven't come up with any kind of synopsis. But these are ideas I'm kicking around. The relationship with Pony and Cray, Avalar and Cameron, and FYI, it's not going to be a romantic relationship. Avalar is actually very young. I'm going to make that a little bit more clear in the next book too. Avalar is not a grown-up, and she's kind of young to think about, you know, having any kind of romantic relationship yet. She's not there. She's not to that point in her life yet. So that is, you know, if I say the relationship between Avalar and Cameron, I'm not talking a romantic relationship. So that's a little bit of a spoiler there. But yeah, this is what I'm kicking around. And I'm thinking about, as I write this book, putting the chapters on my channel. So you're going to see a book develop from scratch. Unlike Song of Mornius, which was an existing book that I restored and added to, this new story will be completely made as I go. So it's going to be, what I might do is I might write maybe 3 or 4 chapters at a time and then put them up back to back, and then there'll be another a lapse, and then I'll maybe put out a couple more chapters. It's going to be a lot slower. These chapters will come on, but they will be further between each other. But if you're interested in seeing how this book develops and going along for the ride, I'm thinking I might share those chapters on YouTube. And I'm hoping that, you know, when I say, well, these chapters are rough drafts, I'm putting these up on YouTube, and they're rough drafts, so they're going to be tinkered with after whatever I put up on YouTube. You know, you're seeing a rough draft version. Maybe if it ever gets published, you're going to see, oh, well, this was changed. This was changed, or this isn't here anymore. She took this part out completely. But that's part of the development of the story, and that might make it even more interesting if ever, you know, either the first or second book become published for real. You might go, hey, you know, this was not in the original idea. She changed this or took this out or whatever. But anyway, so that's what my thoughts are about the sequel. I'm enjoying sharing Talonkai with people on YouTube and the characters, my characters on YouTube. And I think I'm going to continue doing this when I try to put together the second book. So if you enjoyed Talonkai, if you enjoyed Song of Mornius, and you want to see what happens next, there will be future chapters. It just won't be this book. So it'll be basically it. I just wanted to say that this is what my plans are for the future of my story, and people who have been enjoying Song of Mornius after chapter 51 comes up, if they, you know, if they're still interested to see what happens to some of the characters, there will be the next story. And it'll be a lot of fun. I'm hoping that those chapters will be, that I will at least craft them as well as I can to the best of my ability before I put them on YouTube. So even though they're rough drafts, they're halfway decent, you know, before I put them on YouTube. So hopefully the continuing story will, you know, will be as, I'm hoping, will be a good thing too. I just wish I knew what it was going to be about, because even I don't know at this point. It'll be fun to create and fun to continue on the story of some of these characters. So anyway, that's all. If you've been watching, thanks. Bye.